Hey guys, this is Jacolia of Jacolia Gems. Thank you for once again coming to view my channel. If this happens to be your first time, I definitely hope that you hear something that will persuade you to stay. Welcome back home, family. Peace to the kings, peace to the gods. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Well, it's the preparation. Some people are keeping the Sabbath right now. Some of us are getting our house together, cleaning, cooking, vibing out, just ready to enter into that area of rest on tomorrow. And for those of you who have not come into your full identity as a Hebrew, whether it's an Israelite out of the seed line of Jacob, or whether it's an Edomite through some of the tribes of Edom, whether you are an Egyptian or an Assyrian, you are the handiwork of Yod-Heh-Wah-Beh, according to the book of Isaiah. So, Black people, I'm talking to you, and I really hope you get some rest on this weekend. Y'all, I have some correction to family history, but the history is still good. You know how I was making the videos about the Hugh side of my family possibly being Afro-Iranian, okay? And how it's like, I don't know if it's Iran or if it's Iraq. And the reason being is because my great-great-aunt Lavelle, who is still alive with us, I believe she's 100, 101, country people, y'all, from Mississippi. And by her being older, it's real hard to understand her when she said what she said. And I just remember being at her house, this is some years ago, maybe about 8 years ago, being at her house and looking at a picture of one of her sisters, and she had full eyebrows. Y'all see that? That's hair. And so I was like, because I knew I got them from my daddy, okay? Like, I knew that. But I was like, whoa. Because other than my daddy, his little brother and his daughter, my baby cousin, like, we just got the big eyebrows in the family. So when I seen one of my great-great-aunts, I was like, who is that? Where? And she was like, oh, that's my sister. She's from over in Iran, over there. I said, where? And so I'm like, huh. But y'all, so you know how I began to do some deep digging, and I end up finding her grandfather's naturalization paperwork to say that John Hugh arrived here. Well, I don't know if that's when he arrived, but he was naturalized as a citizen in 1854. And there is some paperwork stating that he came over also in 1848, but he was naturalized as a citizen. So I'm like, okay, where from in Iran? You know, I'm talking about Tanzania, East Africa, tribe of Benjamin, because even the family crest lines up with the tribe of Benjamin. Y'all, so I continue to do some digging, and I come across his mom and his dad. And then I come across their paperwork and their immigration statuses. And you know how he was classified as a mulatto? Y'all, you will never believe where my great-great-great-grandparents are from. Ireland. Ireland. Literally the Black Irish. What if I began to tell you that on tonight we could take a gander into the history of the Black Irish before they came over here? I'm not going to go all the way back into the origin of the Black Irish or anything in this video, but I will. You guys, so when we talk about the Irish immigrants, the swarthy Europeans who came over here from Ireland, it is stated that they lived identical to the Native Americans and the African Americans here in the United States. They were considered paupers. They were considered poor and lowly. They were farmers. Some of them were merchants. Not all of them were poor. Some of them were slaves. Other ones were free. My ancestors were free people. They were free farmers. What if I began to tell you to prove emphatically that these people were Hebrews Because when you begin to have this mass immigration of swarthy Europeans, a lot of them came in Catholic. And the reason being is because Moors, Jews, mulattoes, old Christians, muladwad, muladi, were forced to baptize to become a marrano, meaning pig in Spanish, swine, unclean. They had to be forced to convert, a forced one, a hidden one, a converso, to Catholicism, to enter into this world as a new Christian. So a lot of swarthy Europeans that came over here, specifically the Irish, were seen as Catholic. And then some of them remained Protestant, protesting the Catholic Church. And we know that the Protestants come out the Quakers, and the Protestant movements was built off of the precepts of Peter. And we already know what his mission was, to go ahead and convert the Jews in the diaspora. And who are the Jews in the diaspora? The Sephardic Jews, the mulattoes, Malu, Wada, the Moors. What if I began to tell you guys that in 1848, it is very well documented that there was a famine in Ireland where the Jews lived. And it gets very, very interesting because the Rothschilds, who are known to be the richest European Jews of today, what if I told you guys that these are a mixture of Edomites and the tribe of Dan? Converts. Represented by that red flag of Edom, they begin to donate to these Jews in the midst of their famine. You mean the converts, these Edomites who were forcibly converted in Grecian captivity in the time of the Maccabees, the Hibernian dynasty, they gave to the swarthy Europeans during the time of famine? That's what history say. And in 1848, they were forced out of Ireland, and that's how my ancestors came over here into Mississippi. And when they went into Mississippi, they were in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez, Mississippi was Iberian Mississippi. And this is where one of the first synagogue in Mississippi was built. Iberian, these were Sephardic Jews in Natchez, Mississippi. And there were also Choctaw Native Americans dwelling there first. And so they are Hebrews too. They are Edomites. And so the Choctaws began to have relationships with the Spanish. You guys have to know that when all of these people were coming over and coming together, there was swapping of lands, and everything wasn't always forceful. And they did practice indentured servitude amongst one another because these are Hebraic markers. When these swarthy European, these black Irish came into Natchez, Mississippi, they began to swap land and deed masses with the Choctaw Native Americans. If you begin to look into the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, Yod, He, Wav, Chuku, Okike, Ambiamba, there are laws on giving land to the poor. You indenture your land like you indentured a servant. So the Hebrew Edomites, the Choctaw Native Americans, my ancestors on the Burnett side, sold some of their land to these new Irish immigrants so that they could become farmers too. My family, the Hughes, farm was so profitable that during the Great Depression, they never went hungry. Y'all, this is what's in my family bloodline. So excuse me while I focus and I reshift and I begin to do some root working to get back to the etymology of who created me to be who I am. Green thumbs. My family was known to have those things. This is Mississippi. This is the South. This is a black family that sustains to the point where the poor whites came to my family to eat during the Great Depression. Because not only were they farmers in Ireland, they continued to be farmers here. And this is the sustenance of who we are as a Hebraic people. So next time you're reading history and they talk about the Irish immigrants, the French immigrants, the Spaniard, the British, and the Dutch, you need to begin to ask yourself what slave trades and indentured servitude took place in all of these areas And why are the Europeans called swarthy or tawny? Instead of just saying that these were the black Europeans, these was the black people, the mulattoes that was ruling up in Europe. They got pushed during Assyrian captivity into Spain and into all of these places. And that's who the Apostle Paul was writing to in the New Testament. Of course, there were mostly Gentiles in those areas. There are also a great conglomerate of Sephardic Jews. And then we have to remember that these people were coming here before, during, and after the transatlantic slave trade. So all Hebrew Israelites do not look the same. Many of us are going to be so mind blown when we enter into the kingdom if we make it there. Because all skin folk ain't kin folk. And everybody that look white are not. Some of these people have been passing for generations and they married into white families. But guess what? Their daddies are. So y'all, that's how one side of my family is the Black Irish. And we'll talk about the other side in another video. But I thought that that was pretty dope to be able to line it up with 1848, the famine of the Jews in Ireland. And this is how my great-great-great-grandfather, John Hugh, came over here. And his parents were forcibly converted to be baptized as Catholics to enter into the New World. Food for thought.